Welcome to Hotter Than Ever, where we uncover the unconscious rules we've been following, we break those rules, and we find a new path to being freer, happier, sexier, and more satisfied in the second half of our lives. I'm your host, Erin Keating. Today, I talked to Melissa Palmer. Melissa is the CEO and co-founder of the skincare company Osea. You have probably seen their all-natural and seaweed-infused products if you are tuned into such things, because they are everywhere and they have been a leader in the clean beauty space before anyone ever heard the phrase clean beauty. Melissa is the business brain behind the brand. She's been the CEO since 2016, and she leads the company today. She was previously the CEO of a company called Hoopnautica, the industry leader in hula hoop fitness. Who knew that was a thing? Melissa was recently named EY Entrepreneur of the Year 2024 for Greater Los Angeles. We have a great conversation about what it's like to start and run a business with your mom, which is what Melissa does. And we talk about how that deep and connected relationship really gives each of them the freedom to bring out their respective talents and capabilities. And there's so much trust there that it really makes them both blossom. We talk about listening to your intuition and leaning into your expertise. We talk about success and how it's about showing up every day for a lot of days. That felt really relevant to me. They started the company 28 years ago, and in year 20, that is when their brand really exploded. We talk about the benefits of having been around for the beginning of the tech revolution and how that has made women our age really good at adapting to cultural and business change. We get into the language of beauty. We talk about anti-aging, whether that's a thing. We talk about the notion of age defying, which is a marketing term that came about 10 years ago. And we talk about the indignities of chin hair. Oh my God. All right, let's get hot. Melissa Palmer, welcome to Hotter Than Ever.
I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. I am excited to have you here to talk about your life as an entrepreneur and your path to success, which has not been a linear one, to hear you tell it. This is a bit of a leading question, and I'm sure you get this question all the time, but how did you come to co-found a line of skincare products with someone very near and dear to your heart?
Well, I think the only fair answer is I was born right on into it. um, so my mom, I always like to joke, is not only the founder of the company, but the founder of me.
Oh, facts. Yeah.
So, so she's truly the founder. And I really got to grow up with the company. We really did grow up with like bathtubs full of seaweed, essential oils, running all through the house while my mom was blending and making things. And when I was in high school, she finally got her formulas right after decades of perfecting them
Oh,
and
wow.
raising us as a single mom. And we'd all been really entrepreneurial, and I decided, okay, I'm going to help you do this. That was
Oh
really
my
the
God.
beginning 28
That is
years ago.
that is amazing to think about, you in a house. Is it just you? Are you her only?
No, I have a brother as well.
Okay, great. So the two of you running around the house with mom sort of mad scientisting it up.
Yes.
Is she a creative visionary? Would you call her that? How would you characterize your mom, and how would you characterize yourself in relation to your mom?
So I think she is definitely creative and eccentric. I think our whole family probably falls into line with that. And she was really passionate about natural health and wellness and healing. And that was really her moment of creation for the company. The truth is, it really kind of started at a commune where I grew up, where we were doing like natural health retreats. And my mom was looking for products to use at the spa there and couldn't find a product that was safe enough to put on her body because she equated it with the same. Couldn't find a product safe enough to put in her body. So why would
Sure.
she put it on her body?
It's in your body through your skin.
And it's so crazy because let me tell you, 25 years ago, we were the total nut job saying the skin is the largest organ in your body. Everything you put on is absorbed. And it's just so amazing and gratifying to hear that be mainstream knowledge now. But she definitely is creative. I think I can kind of sum that up best in a lot of our roles in the business today.
Great.
She spends anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. She likes to say minimum 3, meditating on the brand and the products and the energy of the products every day.
Every day.
Mm-hmm. And I run the business. And in those meditations, she gets creative visions for products, and she really just holds our vision very strong. And on the one hand, it's completely insane. And on the other hand,
I wasn't going to say it.
well, let's be real. But I cannot tell you how often I hear this line, which is, yeah, I just picked up the product and something felt different about it to me.
Oof.
And so I think it's crazy and it's working. So yes, the answer is yes, she is a creative visionary.
Wow. And then, like a lot of people generationally, we are in response to our parents or in response to our siblings. We develop differently. Would you say that you are the opposite of that, or that you, I don't want to over simplify things, but it seems to me like if you're running the business, like that's a different brain.
Well, I can already tell that this is a different kind of interview than the one I'm used to. Because
Good.
anytime I say that, no one asks me that question.
Really?
Yeah, that I run the business. My mom's the creative. And I think there's so much truth to that, of how we grow in relationship to our parents, to our siblings, to our partners. And it highlights maybe an overactivated part in who we are, who we aren't. And I think I do think about that. If she would have been like really pragmatic and driving the business in that sense, I don't think I would have been meditating that many hours a day, to be clear. So yeah, I think it really has shaped who I am in this business. And I've also found a lot of areas of my own creativity. So we've split things up pretty well, and we come together really well.
I think that's amazing. You hear about like Joe and Sons Auto Parts or whatever. There's one of those down the street from me. But we rarely hear, the first time I ever heard it was Russ and Daughters, which is a line of knishes or something in New York. And so it's gorgeous to me, and I think a sign of the times that this is a mother-daughter company. I wish that it was more of a model for people, because it shows so much agency and so much empowerment that the two of you are doing this thing together.
It's so true. I think that makes me so excited to hear you say that, because if anything we do could be an inspiration to mother and daughter businesses, that would be so cool. Because, I mean, listen, when things are sticky and rocky, nothing's rockier, because
yeah.
mothers,
all of it,
daughters, all the triggering.
Right.
But it has been such an incredible deepening of our relationship. And my mom always says that she loves being able to see this side of me, like in the world, versus me calling up and, or coming home for a holiday and saying, oh, work's great. Right. So she knows this entire other side of me. And I think for me, a lot of the journey has been learning to trust my mom more, because I was actually doing this as a teenager. And there were so many times where I doubted her. And she really, in terms of, she always says, Osea just like came to her through a channel. And something came in very clearly, because in the 28 years we've been around, we have the same logo, we have the same mission statement, the same packaging. And I also get told all the time, congrats on your new brand. And it has just remained so true. So I've gotten to, in the process of her seeing me flourish in this sense, I've really gotten to like tap into her wisdom. And I would say if daily I get to be like, oh yeah, my mom was right. Something comes up.
I'm sure she loves that.
No, I don't actually tell her that. And I don't know if she'll hear this, but if she does,
shouldn't listen if you want to keep that a secret.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it away.
So it's so interesting. What is the give and take that allows the two of you to be in business successfully together. Because like you said, it's like when it's bad, it's got to be really bad. But at the same time, neither of you is actually going to go anywhere from each other's lives. You have that endless history to lean on. You have all the good and all the bad to lean on.
I think you really just answered it. Is like fundamentally that is the truth. I would add that we really trust each other.
Mm.
So I know when to ask her, when to go to her and about things in the business, because I kind of like know where she has really good intuition,
Mm.
but she really taught me to lead with my own intuition.
Mm.
And part of that is she really trusts mine. And there's actually quite little back and forth between us in the areas of the business that we run.
Well,
And
she's
so we
very
know what each other.
busy meditating.
Yeah, she's very busy. She also runs the product development team.
Yeah.
And I can tell when the product development team, as we've actually become not a small company anymore. When you said because the product's everywhere, it's still a
Yeah.
shock to me, because to me, it's still us in our garage, which is where we were for 15 years. But it's a totally different ecosystem now. There's lots of people. And so it just like this week, I was like, I think this is like missing some of my mom's essence and creativity. So they're going to spend time just like tuning in with her. So she definitely, meditation is the primary, but she's really good at correcting grammar. She just has such good instincts on stuff. But fundamentally, we just trust each other. Sometimes she'll hear about huge things. I mean, I'm so guilty about not keeping her updated, even though we talk
Like
all the
what?
time. Like something big that happened, a piece of distribution or something. She's like, oh, didn't know that. But she just totally trusts me.
Yeah. So how big are you now?
We have a team of 70,
Whew.
which is, I think, 65 women, 5 men. Maybe it's at like 6 now.
Good for them.
Yeah, exactly. I think so too. Lucky them.
Yeah.
And I think we've grown something like 8,000% in the
Mm.
past 6 years.
That's really, really exciting. I mean, it's just exciting to think about, as a person who's starting her own thing myself, like, if you show up every day and you do the work and you put in the effort and care and love and you're smart about it, step by step, brick by brick, you can build something big and successful. You need luck and strategy and resources, but I'm inspired by it.
That is exactly the combination I say that you always need. Luck is so much of it, and the hard work is so much of it, and the inspiration and the strategy. And I think our biggest gift as women is that intuition and listening to it. It guides so many choices we make. But I think the other piece is, you said when you show up every day, if there was one thing we could share and I could share about our story, is it sometimes can take a lot of days. We've been doing it 28 years and we didn't really start to see success until year 20.
Okay, stop. I didn't want to hear that.
Okay, that's a really long path. But also where we've gotten in 20 to 28 those years is radical.
Yeah.
But we did this we had no business experience whatsoever.
Right.
And we did it really slow at first, but we were successful the early years. We grew 10% a year, every year. We had a really nice life. We had a great business. It supported ourselves, supported
Yeah.
our family, and supported both of us. And we built in some really fun things. We sold in spas and hotels. So our whole world was about traveling for free to the nicest hotels on the planet and staying there and teaching them how to do treatments and then having an incredible trip. So
That sounds so
it was a
awesome.
really great lifestyle. So when I say, I think I'll recategorize that, which is the first 20 years were really successful by all standards. We had a profitable, healthy business that sustained us.
Mm-hmm.
the past 8 years have been something altogether different.
Right. Right. I think because not only are you now expert at what you do, but also the culture caught up with what you were doing.
Absolutely. And I had incredible luck. It's that piece on our kind of like fringe thing we were doing. We had a piece in Forbes come out recently, and the headline was "Fringe Weirdos in Their Garage," which is how I kind of had described us. And then they described to talk about the
was
business.
that about Bill Gates?
Thank you. No, just a couple of hippies, which was us. But
No, the culture caught up with you.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The culture caught up with us. And I also had the incredible luck. I left for 2 years and helped to run the hula hoop company.
Okay.
And it was
So,
incredible
yes.
luck because I
Yeah.
learned how to do something that the business needed.
Amazing. I want to hear that story because, first of all, what brought, in my mind, it's very dramatic how you left, but it probably isn't.
Not.
And then talk to me about hula hoops as a business. I mean, what I think is so interesting, seaweed and hula hoops, is like, who would have thought,
That
right?
they were so weirdly connected.
Or even who would
Very
have
full
thought of
circle.
these as businesses. Oh,
Yeah,
very nice. Very
thanks.
nicely punned.
So I developed this hobby. I am someone who goes very into things. This past couple weeks, I'm heavily into making waffles
Oh,
out of
fantastic.
like protein waffles, but like you've never seen broccoli in a waffle. I'm on a whole kick, but then I'll never do it again. So I get very into something. But hula hooping was a pretty long lasting hobby. And I was just really, I loved it because it was this movement practice. I love dance and ecstatic dance with this like tool that if you weren't present, it would just drop. And it was hoop dancing and fire hula hooping and all of this. So everyone knew I was like kind of the crazy hula hooping addict, and had told a friend that I really wanted to start a hula hoop company. And he'd been kind of trying to help us mentor growing the business. And he, of course, thought cosmetics was a much better business, and then met someone with a hula hoop company. Said, well, I actually just met someone who's doing that. You should meet them. And I ended up my mom she said, you have to follow your passion. And I did. I hired an employee and we had someone work in that garage, and I stayed somewhat involved, but I left for a few years, and it was the best thing that could have happened. It was very dramatic growth of a company, and everything from going on Good Morning America and selling like $1 million of a handmade product in a morning, and just every up and down. But it was at just the moment that selling stuff online, it was called e-com, not quite D2C yet.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Had started. We had like this big Facebook group, and Instagram was starting. And I just developed this total passion for that kind of marketing, learned how to like code and build a website, and everything I loved because it was like so new and so accessible at that time.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving and was figuring out what I was going to do with my life next. And I left. I'd invested money into the business that I shouldn't have, and I was kind of in a very down place, and thought, okay, well, while I figure out my life, I'll just build a website for Osea, start an Instagram, and see what happens. And that was the start of our growth.
Wow. Wow, it really is luck and timing and putting in the reps. I meet you today in this conversation, and you're on top of the world, and you have all this success and 70 employees, holy moly, and you're out of the garage. But you mentioned to me that you feel like you're someone who found your success both professionally and personally later in life. And it's not, you're just 40, right? Or almost around there. No need to be shy. I'm turning 53 on Saturday. This is a podcast for women over 40.
Well, I'm rolling into my 40s. Been there a few
Okay.
years. Still shy about it. But
Still
yes.
shy about it. No need. We are hotter than ever.
That's right.
That is the gospel I
And
preach.
that's starting to make a lot of sense to me. The pun of that, or the double meaning of that title. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So as a person who's rolling into her 40s,
she's rolled in. Let's be
She,
honest. I'm in.
as a person in her 40s,
Yeah, thank you.
you
Could
can
even say mid. You could get there and say
I
that.
give you permission to own that
Thank
because
you.
we have never been better. Women
I
have
agree.
never been better in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. This is an unprecedented moment in history for women. We have our own agency, we have our own careers. We have never had more power or influence, more participation in the culture, and no one's going to make us invisible at this point. Like, that is not going to happen. What I continue to see is women doing extraordinary things in this chapter and reinventing outside the rules of what society says our utility is.
I couldn't agree more. I have to share just a little moment where that hit me this week.
Please.
We're in the business, really actively working to grow the business on TikTok, doing TikTok lives, TikTok shop, all this stuff. Okay. So to me, I'm really excited because this is a new pocket
Sure.
and I learned how to market when everything was new. And I have this team that is in their late 20s, early 30s on that digital team, and they're like completely scared of new channels. Not scared, but they're like, "Well, what should we expect? How should we do this?" And I had this
I,
moment of like they've been marketing as long as all of this has existed. And
oh,
so they like an affiliate market that's always been around in their career, whereas like it was radical affiliate marketing
right,
15
right.
years ago. And I thought, oh, that's a really cool perspective as an older generation of marketer who's been through like digital marketing growing,
Yeah.
and to get to like now I get to work with them and be like, hey, this is new, like this is what's exciting about digital marketing. And I thought like, oh, I think that like marketers in their 40s and 50s are going to actually have a lot to teach about learning digital marketing as it evolves into its next era.
Well,
So,
because we were around for the invention of all of this, right? Like, you were talking about how you were so excited to build a website and do e-commerce. It's like I worked for a PR agency in my 20s, my first like grown-up job where I was like, okay, I'm going to have a regular 9 to 5 while I'm an artist on the side instead of putting the artist part at the center. Um I worked for a PR firm in San Francisco that all of our clients were tech clients, and Jeff Bezos was one of our clients when Amazon was just starting. And he would walk around the office and we would sort of whisper to each other, do you think people will buy books on the internet? Do you think people are going to be willing to put in their credit cards? Like, it was really like we have witnessed this insane speed of growth and cultural change and business change. And we have been agile enough to like go, oh, okay, not that, this, okay, this, not that, okay, that change, that's not happening anymore. Oh, I got laid off from that. Oh, that side of the business is contracting. Oh, and then for me, like, I had worked in tech and then I worked in entertainment and then those things merged. and like, and now I'm like, okay, I'm in this world of like creators,
it's
and
so it's
that's
so
a totally different
cool.
marketplace. But I'm not scared of it, just like you're not scared of it, because you've made up the rules as you've gone.
And I think that that is just one more point. I mean, aside from everything going on culturally, I feel like the fact that I even get to exist and do what I do today and have a leadership team that's led by these incredible women, like that's just it's just so amazing to be like in business and growing at this point. But it's just so cool to think about like that history that you get to bring that. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I love that you have this podcast and I love this topic. So
I just want to set us against a cultural backdrop, because I think women in midlife feel like, okay, I did all the things I'm supposed to do. I had the career. If I wanted kids, I had kids. If I wanted a marriage, I had a marriage. Maybe I'm keeping that. Maybe I'm not. But we're all at this moment of like, okay, what's next? Oh my God, I'm going to
mhm.
live another 30 years. I'm probably going to work a lot of that time. Like, what does that look like? What do I want that to look like now that I'm not in the business of pleasing everyone else every minute of my life?
Oof.
Like, whoa, we need some paths. We need to see some models. That is what I'm here to do, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, I think in terms of my path,
Yeah.
I had never, until we briefly connected, described myself as having later in life success.
Mm.
And then when I thought about it, it actually does really click. I was successful, in the business that I was running. I um, had jobs. But I did not experience like really radical, exciting, like fast growth success like I did till my mid to late 30s. And I feel like I just like that never clocked to me that that was a different time to experience. And my greatest success in life is now in my 40s.
Yeah.
So I didn't even like, because we're in our own reality, it never really occurred to me that that wasn't the path. And then I
Well,
started
it
thinking
might
like,
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like my 40s I know are my most professionally like growth oriented successful time. And now I'm thinking about what my 50s will look like, and I can't imagine that that would change. I see like my career and interests continuing to grow at that point as well.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I will say that my 40s was when my career exploded, that I had been really, really headed somewhere for a long time, and then really in my 40s, it was like, "Oh, now you're the leader on the team. Now you're training everybody in what you know how to do." Like, and for me, it was, I had been a television executive, and then I worked at Snapchat for 6 years making short form original series. And then when I got laid off from there, it was in the moment when I had blown up the rest of my life and decided to get divorced. And I had gotten COVID and almost died. And sort of that was like a revelation for me, like, oh, fuck, I'm not going to be here forever. How do I want to live my life? Um, and I had this vision of what could be next for me, which is like stepping out from behind the scenes and actually letting my voice be heard instead of or in addition to bringing other people up and bringing other people's stories out. And I don't think in my 40s I had the confidence that I have in my 50s. Like now I really just don't give a fuck what people think, except for the people who I care about.
I'm so excited because I feel that way already.
Yeah.
And the idea that that's going to continue to grow, I mean,
I have
both
a friend in her
scary and so
60s.
excited.
I have a friend, a good friend who's in her early 60s, and like to see the way she walks through the world is like a nuclear version of where I'm at. Like it's like she gives so so little care to the people who would doubt her. Like and I want to be her when I grow up, like which may I don't think I'll ever grow up, but you know, I'd like to stay this sort of adult teenager version of myself
Yeah,
forever.
I'm with you.
Yeah. um,
I can imagine how much that grows. This past couple years has been so many hard and often quite expensive lessons in just not giving a fuck about what other people say. This is my little world of this is where like my intuition and my feelings are cranking, and it's been a transition for me to lead like that because so
mm,
much of our culture is really built around kindness. And for me to learn how to assert myself
mm,
really clearly of like, hey, actually, I hear you, thank you, like, but this is what we're going to do.
yeah.
That's been pretty radical for me.
Yeah. So even as a founder, even as the head of the business, you have felt like you needed to claim that mantle in a different way.
Totally.
That's so interesting. Why do you say it was an expensive lesson for you?
Oh, some really expensive lessons. Um, because I've allowed myself to be talked out of so many things. Like,
Mm,
ugh, and if there's any listeners on here, I'm sorry. We switched pumps. This is like just a small thing that had turned into such a crazy thing. We switched suppliers of our pumps, and on our best-selling product. And I was like, I just don't have a good feeling about this. And they did testing and it
Mhm.
showed it was fine. And we were saving a couple pennies, nothing. But they liked that supplier better. And I said a couple times, I don't really like this. It turned out to be a multi-year insane situation that really annoyed a lot of our customers and drove us, it was such a mess. And I said it. I just like I knew it. And so my CFO of all people, she's a woman in her 50s. So I know what you mean about women in their 50s. The best to work with, quite a few on the leadership team. And when I say something like that now, she's like, okay, we should be listening because it happens so many times. And
Mm.
sometimes I cannot even explain where it's coming from. But the more I listen, the louder it gets. And it's usually really practical stuff. I'm not meditating on it, but it is like we were going to have this huge influencer event. And 3 weeks before this happened this past summer, I told the team, I was like, I don't want to do this and we're canceling it. And they were like, oh, okay. I just kept saying, like, I don't know why it makes me nervous. Lo and behold, a huge scandal the day before the event happened. Like, so now that team really listens to me. So I
Yeah.
think it's like just, it's a version of not giving a fuck, but it's like, I think our greatest power as women is like that guidance that we have, and just listening has been so powerful. And that's what I mean by expensive on
Yeah.
not listening.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for me, I had some similar experiences where it wasn't about not listening to my intuition. It was about saying yes to things that weren't good enough because it was going to make something feel easier in the moment.
That too. Oh yeah.
And I have every single time I ever did that when I was developing a show where I was like, okay, we'll just cast that person because everybody else seems to like them. I don't think they're quite good enough, but who am I to say? It's like, well, actually, it's my job to say. And so I just took on the fact that like people are gonna not necessarily always like my leadership.
Yeah.
But I can always rationalize it and I can always explain it and I always get thanked for it afterwards because I hold the bar incredibly high when I'm making a product. At the end of the day, that's what you're doing too. It's like you have to tune into what you're hearing in yourself. And it's very easy for us, especially in business, when we're in a patriarchal structure, like a big corporation or say a big tech company, for example, um, to override our intuition because of XYZ data point or XYZ, what do they call them? OKRs,
Yeah.
objectives and key results. Go fuck yourself. I never want to use that language ever
KPIs.
again.
I've been
Or
learning all those expressions.
KPIs. Okay. Find a different way of talking about this stuff is so it's necessary, it's fine, it's good to set goals, but also like you could choke on that language. It's so oppressive. I hated it so much. And maybe that's just because I'm a creative and I'm like very left and right brain split and I'm not meant for those structures, but I like did really well in that world. And I was like, well, I guess I'm good now. I'm a success in quotes. I was like getting all the cash and prizes and the promotions and all of that, but like dying inside.
Yeah.
um, but the lesson is to never override that. If you have the position where you actually have the final say, that is your job.
Take it. Yeah. And I think I'm sometimes conflating what you said really gave me a little moment of clarity, experience with intuition. Like,
Mm,
yeah, I do have the final say because this is the world that I'm running. I do have it. And it's been all about learning to take it and when to like how to surround myself with the right people to
mm.
make those decisions.
Yeah. I definitely had bosses who I would do the work and then I'd present the work thinking we were headed on a certain path. And then they would go, no, we're not going to go that way. And I was like furious, like, my labor, my effort, my creativity. But they were not wrong. And they
Did
were
you have
doing their job.
did you have women bosses who did that?
I had male and female bosses who did that.
Okay.
Yeah. The male boss was much more likely to do that. The female boss would also do that, but not in the same way. It wasn't as such a blanket.
I think that's the lesson. Like as a female boss learning like, oh yeah, okay, thank you. We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah. But I think, well, if I could put myself in her shoes, she felt the need to explain
Yeah.
why, and he didn't. And that was fine with us because that's how it works in, an old boys, young boys network like tech.
Yeah.
Um, talk to me about anti-aging. I'm so interested in, I've had people on this podcast who have said to me, there is no such thing as anti-aging. Like, you are aging.
So this was something that I think maybe about 7 years ago in beauty, they started saying age defying
Ooh.
instead of anti-aging. And anti-aging became this kind of like dirty word. And I talked to my mom about it, and she had a very strong opinion. She was like, "Of course I'm anti-aging. I want to wake up every single day and feel as great as I possibly can. So
Mhm.
I am actively working every day to slow down my aging process." And this is she's turning 70 this year. So at the time she was in her 60s and I was in my 30s, and I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Because actually, there's no such thing as age defying. So that's a little bit like weird that that's what we would switch to.
Right.
And she was like, yeah, inherently, I'm anti aging. It means every day I'm getting older. I have less time on the planet. I'm anti that. Every day I'm going to stretch more so I feel like I'm not getting older or do this. And so she decided we were going to double down, and we started naming products with the word anti aging. And her comment was, let someone come and talk to me about it. At my age, I'm happy to tell them. So maybe you're right about a woman in her 60s. She gives even less fucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone I know who's older than me is like, I'm fucking fighting it tooth and nail.
Yeah.
I'm fighting it tooth and nail. My best friend has always been an athlete, and she's like, this is my workout routine now. My goal is to be able to squat and bend and reach when I'm 90. She's like, I'm going to do everything I can. She's like, I don't care what my body looks like, whatever. This is about, I'm agile and my body works beautifully, like as long as I want it to.
I think that could be the name of a brand for skincare, fighting it tooth and nail.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. So we are not in the camp of we won't say anti-aging.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, some of our most successful models, our number one successful model, I'm so proud. We found her on Instagram. She wasn't a model. She's 65. She's now modeling all the time, full-time career. And every time we have we would never put makeup on her or airbrush a wrinkle or hair, because you can age gracefully and beautifully and feel good, but we're all aging. So we're pretty clear about doubling down on anti-aging.
It's so interesting because that's like a different way to do your hippie values.
Yeah. I will say, when I did say I feel like this is the show that will appreciate it. So we don't airbrush. We don't do makeup. We do nothing. There's one thing we airbrush.
Which is what?
Chin hair.
Oh, good.
Because it's the only kind thing to do.
I have been in a battle against chin hair for 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
No one wants to see their chin hair blown up on a billboard. It's just not kind.
I'd rather die.
Yeah.
I'd literally rather die.
I never told them I did it. I did that as just a kindness.
Yeah. Nothing says crone like chin hair.
So bad. Yeah. I recently said to my partner, like, I asked her as a casual question, which was like a year ago, and she still hasn't gotten over it. I said, what's your strategy for your chin hair? Because that seemed like a normal thing to say. And she's just practical. Like, what's your strategy? And she still hasn't gotten over that question. Yeah.
Laser.
Electrolysis, laser. I've tried it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck. Just Yeah, it's been a battle. I was a plucker, and then I always had ingrown. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, nothing more insulting than an ingrown chin hair.
Yeah, you're like, look, what are you speaking up about? What to be involved? Get away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel hot with chin hairs. Um,
Nope.
no. Talk to me about your. You said that you found success in your personal life later in life as well, since you brought up your partner.
I did. I really struggled with date. I've never been married,
Uh-huh.
and I had a long-term relationship in my 20s, which was every bit as dramatic as one could make it out to be. Like, I just did it all. And then I just didn't have great relationships in my 30s. I just kind of stopped dating. I stopped caring. I was thinking about having a baby by myself.
Mhm.
I pursued that. It didn't work. I just was like, I don't know. And then I focused more on having a baby than dating. It just was an area of my life that I hadn't felt like I like landed. And just over a year ago, I met my partner. We were fixed up. And I think it's like dating at this age, one of the coolest things is like, because I'm like a whole and healthy person and she's a whole and healthy person, when we knew, it's like you just know on a different level.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's
gorgeous.
it's really it's
That's gorgeous. I think a lot of people have had that experience and don't cop to it, where it's like there's a long stretch of time where you're like, fuck this. I'm not going to keep trying. I'm not going to hit my head against the wall. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to not succeed at this. For me, I just wanted babies so bad that I like ignored a lot of red flags on the way to the altar, which I pay for every day of my life. Yeah, even though I'm divorced.
I'm
But
seeing a lot of friends go through that too.
yeah, but I have 2 beautiful kids, and that's what I wanted. I wanted 2 beautiful kids, and, like, no amount of, uh I just have no regret, like,
I
because even though
mean,
the marriage was hard and all of that, and maybe not the right person or the person I needed to heal a part of myself, that's now healed. So I can move on
I
and have happy love relationships and, and do my dating and sex life however the fuck I want at this point.
I
Like,
had a lot of healing to do and I did a lot of therapy. And if there was a personal growth workshop, you name it, I was there.
mhm,
And the exciting thing is it worked. And
mhm.
I found my way to a really healthy relationship that is just so fun and feels so good.
Ugh, I want that for every woman. I want that for every woman. Fun and feels good, like, especially at this point where it's like, okay, if you were going to have kids, you probably figured that out. If you know, I just feel like we don't have to date the kind of people we would have dated if we were going to mate and go on the relationship escalator together. Which is like, we're doing all the right things at the right time with the right steps in the right sequence, like everybody else is, and everybody says you're supposed to. Like, we're at the top of the escalator now and looking around and going, I wonder how I want things to be.
That is exactly it in a nutshell. That's it. And it's not like, oh, I need this person to create financial stability for me
Right.
because, we're taking care of ourselves already. And it's such a, like, I want to be with her because I want to be with her and because
So good.
it's the top of the escalator. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm working out my metaphors these days.
And also some of the little things that were such a big deal. Who cares?
Oh, like what?
Oh, I mean, I remember I wouldn't go on a date with someone because I didn't like the restaurant they picked. I was just like so picky. This was decades ago, or I didn't think their career seemed promising, or who knows? And maybe it wasn't that specific, but I think I was like looking for that relationship to mean something about me or like
Mm,
make me something.
mm.
Whereas now I feel really good about who I am and I want someone to enjoy life with.
Right. Who you're genuinely compatible with.
Yeah.
on the important things.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I'm trying out some new ending questions. And
Okay.
so I guess I just want to ask, like, what advice would you give to our listeners who are women over 40 who might be at a moment of reinvention in their lives? They might be at the top of the escalator looking around going, what do I do next in their career, in their personal lives? What advice would you give them about how to figure out where the next thing can come from?
Gosh, I think I could have this conversation with myself right now.
Mm,
And there's this like part of me that feels like so much in my life is established and fixed. I do this, I live here, I have these friends, I like these kinds of things. So I think what I've really been working on is being really expansive
mm,
as like, okay, what actually now feels like it would be really fun and exciting for me? Because one thing I think about is like so much of what drove me previously was like things feeling new and exciting and
mhm,
feeling nervous. And I don't get that feeling as often. It's pretty
mm.
exciting when I do, so I really go for it. But I think I'm just like starting as I'm thinking about like the next decade of my life. Like, and I think I'm maybe just talking to myself now because I've been
Yeah.
thinking about this same thing so much. I'm really happy with a lot of things in my life. And I think I'm also at that point where I want to make some pretty big changes.
Mm.
And I've just been really thinking like, okay, like this is like, how can I like look at myself like newly because I'm a totally different version of myself and like
Mhm.
lift those restrictions and think like it's just because it's been this way doesn't have to be. So that's a lot of like the practice I've been in. And
Yeah.
then I love that everyone talks about therapy now.
Yeah.
It was like a thing you kind of did by yourself before, but I have found like therapy and spirituality to just be like, if I just take the time to create that quietness, like there's so much wisdom to be found.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think we get used to overriding those little sparks of intuition or those like, "Ooh, I heard about this thing and that person's doing that thing and I wonder what that would be. Oh, I'm
Hmm.
not the kind of person who would do that. Oh, am I? Could I be?"
Yeah.
Like I think these conversations happen in our heads. And at this point in our lives, like tuning into that station that's curious and is like, like
Like no matter how small, like
no matter how
following that little
small.
spark. Yeah, that little spark.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, sometimes I think maybe I'll go to Burning Man next year.
Oh, I could not recommend it enough.
I went in 97. I went
Did
in
you?
97. Yes. But
That's
I think like,
incredible.
am I a Burning Man person?
I mean,
Like,
considering right now, while we're recording this, Burning Man is happening, I
I
thought, why aren't I there? From this interview, I feel like the answer is yes. I'm going to say that for you.
I just don't know if I can handle the dust. I'm like my princess side definitely wins out on that. My comfort side. Anyway,
Ugh,
it's
the
just a
comfort
stupid
is.
small example, right? But it's like uh I just think those things pop up in a million areas of our lives where we go, that's not me. I wish it was.
Yeah.
Then it's like, well, maybe it could be if you were willing to think about yourself differently.
Yeah. Also, I've been thinking about all the things I said I wanted to do.
Oh,
Like, I I really want to live in Europe for a year.
hey, I've said that too. Yeah,
Yeah,
Rome,
and
Rome. Yeah.
Paris for me.
Mhm.
We'll be close to each other. And then there's this thought like, oh, well, I could just like start planning that and do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can run your company from anywhere
Yeah.
as long as
And
you're
so
willing to work weird hours.
I'm a night
Or
owl. It's a dream.
oh my god, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I hope the next time I talk to you, you will have clarified and manifested all these cool new things that you're going to do. But it's been really inspiring to talk to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time today.
I have to say, this is, I can only imagine how addicted your listeners are to this show, because this conversation was so incredible for me. And I love your viewpoint. And it's so cool to actually like talk about chin hair in an interview. My PR team was going to be like, "What were you doing?"
We have
But
to talk about everything.
we
We have
do.
to.
So thanks for
Yeah.
creating this channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for giving us a special code. If you use hotter than ever on oseamalibu.com, you will get 10% off of their amazing products. And there is also a sale going on right now, I noticed, because I'm on all your social media
There is.
communications.
And we just launched our biggest launch ever of our Undaria algae body wash. So
Ooh,
if you are already a fan of our body oil or haven't tried it, suggest to try the body oil and the body wash with it. My
yeah,
two holy
amazing.
grail products.
Amazing,
And just
amazing.
know my mom will be meditating on those products.
And future ones. Oh my God, Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Hotter Than Ever. If you loved this conversation, please share it with a friend. And you can find out more about Melissa and Osea and the other episodes of this show and the other people that I interview on our Substack at hotterthanever.substack.com or at hotterthaneverpod on Instagram. Comment on our posts, drop us a note. Let us know if this conversation about beauty and change and entrepreneurship spoke to you in any specific way. It's really great to hear what you think. Hotter Than Ever is produced by Erica Gerard and Podkit Productions. Our associate producer is Melody Carey. Music is by Chris Keating with vocals by Isa Fernandez. I will see you next week, beauties. You know, you're not aging at all. I could swear you are aging backwards. You know, I bet that's because you're starting to put yourself first after such a long time. Well, it's really working for you. Keep it up, Benjamin Button.